superficial a little bit.
Yeah.
Can't look cigarette.
It's just Hunter.
Yeah, I guess get in there.
Yes. Is it
Alright.
recording?
Nate Pixley.
Dante Ruiz.
William Casey.
Hunter Nichols.
Aaron Petrowski.
Ario Porsolson.
Ryan Rodriguez.
We are Team Virtue.
Alright. Last start with Bill.
Alright.
Okay. Just found it interesting, or Mill makes a good point about freedom and how opinions shouldn't be silenced regardless of what they are. And he says how the silencing of the expression of an opinion is that it's robbing the human race. So regardless of if an opinion is true or wrong, and if you don't agree with it, it should be set out so you can hear both sides of a story, both sides of an argument or a conflict. And that's like pretty good like foundation for like liberty and freedom, I guess.
How do you feel about something that's like entirely unfounded though? Like completely unfounded, like someone like you have like the Westboro Baptist Church rallying against like, you know, people dying in the military and calling them fags and, you know, stuff like that. How do you justify expressing that kind of opinion?
Okay, I see. I don't know.
I have to agree. There are some opinions that are just really abhorrent, but then again, allowing free speech is sort of what this country is founded on. And then you have like the opposing groups, like what are they called, the Blue Line group that just goes
like
strictly to oppose the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was like also like hate groups too. It was like how far does it go?
Yeah.
Sort of.
I mean, if you take it to the extreme, you have, I mean, we're kind of diverging, but you have like Charlie Hebdo, where, you know, their freedom of speech is infringed upon by, you know, certain religious philosophies. But
Right, it's sort of like bordering on thought crime, like where do you draw the line between freedom of speech and then like punishing people for what they're just thinking about.
yeah.
If they have like evil thoughts or something,
Right.
you don't like it, so you're gonna punish them for it. Okay.
I think the other interesting thing he said in this is like if you have a claim or anything like that, and you allow others to freedom of speech and to attack your claim or like whatever it is, and it just withstands the criticism, then that's good, because then it just proves that you know, or whatever claim you're making, somebody argues you have to argue back or why it's like it's best or.
So you're saying that almost all opinions can be voiced because the strength of their logic is just going to be tested?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and similarly, opinions that you find abhorrent, they probably become weaker when they get attacked, and it becomes apparent that their logic is flawed. Like, so I think universally putting the truth out there, like, is probably a good thing, like what he says.
I think Nietzsche talks about that a little bit too in his writing, but when we get there.
Okay.
What about in the first section where he's sort of addressing, I guess, the naysayers, utilitarianism? Any interesting points there?
The one part that stood out was he was talking about how some of the naysayers, like happiness in any form, cannot be rational purpose of human life and action because it can't be attainable. They're saying, like, what right do we have to be happy? And, like, we can do without happiness. But,
yeah, that passage actually really resonated with me.
Sorry, what page is this again?
That's 159 on the second paragraph.
How did that resonate with you? What did you find particularly interesting about it?
Well, I guess from a very superficial standpoint, utilitarianism is the maximization of happiness and minimization of pain, but that sort of presupposes like our right to be happy. Like a lot of people live lives where being quote happy is not really just a possibility. So are they just not capable of living complete, fulfilled lives? But I think Mill goes on to talk about how, yes, the maximization of happiness is important, but also the minimization of pain. And they don't. Those people who say that do even have the right to be happy don't really address the fact that, hey, we're also talking about the minimization of pain. So even if you live a life where maybe being totally happy is not possible, you can still minimize your pain, potentially.
And I think it's one thing to say that everyone has a right to be happy and enjoy a fulfilled life, but then it's another thing when certain philosophers don't consider like societal conditions, where like you were talking about, certain people just can't really experience that fulfillment.
Yeah, because they're just born into an environment where they're just, unfortunately, they're born into a place that is just not like a happy, like a good life.
Yeah.
Or they're born into like in poverty, or they're born into a war zone or something. Like
Right.
Absolutely.
They didn't choose that life.
Yeah. Like in section we were talking about like the antebellum South, and how it was like the economic paradigm for slavery to be accepted, but that we know now that is not an accurate way that we need to treat people. But it just shows this like age-long juxtaposition between happiness and what the expectations of society are.
Do you guys think that most philosophy here is good, where it counts, where it doesn't matter which state of society that you were born, we still get the maximum happiness or the possibility?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea in principle.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of encountered this when we started talking about it in class. There's just so many issues, like a lot of dilemmas that you run into, I think, trying to implement this.
You're saying happiness is achievable in any society?
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
full potential happiness?
not full. But you guys are saying that you have to take into account like your social state.
Yeah.
Or stuff. And I'm asking, do you think most philosophy here can include that? It's like regardless.
I think it does. Actually, I really appreciate that he brought that up. That utilitarianism, while it's definitely concerned with happiness, is not solely concerned with happiness.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely includes those people whose place, space, and time doesn't really allow for them to be ideally happy.
Mm-hmm. It kind of just allows them the opportunity to maximize their happiness.
Right. Work with what you got. Mm-hmm. I think another nice point that he made was when the detractors were talking about utilitarianism being a philosophy fit for swine. Mm-hmm. And he shoots back and says, you're not really considering that humans can have higher pleasures, like enjoying a piece of art or on a beautiful day outside. So I thought that was also a good retort.
Or it's better to be a human dissatisfied than a pig satisfied?
Yeah, that was also a good one.
Better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied. But it's interesting because it's like, I think he says something along the lines of like, ignorance is bliss? Or no, it's not. Ignorance is not bliss, because he says, so better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied, and if the fool or the pig is of a different opinion, it's only because they only know their own side of the question, and the other party to the comparison of both sides.
True, but I mean, what perspective do you have to compare to anything? You only have your own perspective. You're not going to ever see what it's like to be a pig or a chicken.
Yeah, that's true. That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
So how do you know if, like, who's happier?
True, yeah.
So it's still a very anthropocentric philosophy.
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
Like human-centered. He didn't even think
Okay.
about what he would probably say would be the lower animals.
Well, I mean, like humans are always better
Yeah.
in these philosophies.
Yeah, that's true.
They have reason.
Yeah. So actually, pigs are supposed to be pretty smart. But I guess that's a totally different topic.
I think pigs are damn happy too.
Yeah, they are.
So they get killed.
Yeah.
They get eaten.
So, bacon.
Which makes us happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if, like, at the end of the quarter, we all just came to the conclusion that bacon made everybody happy? That
Yeah,
was true happiness.
Yeah, what if you're a vegetarian?
Yeah.
You can't achieve true happiness.
That's the new rule. Only way to achieve happiness is by eating bacon.
Yeah.
So yeah, so is that it for me? I think we're about halfway through, so.
Most.
In lecture, what is she talked about niche and said that he thinks that utilitarians think ahistorical, which is why they are wrong. Forgot what she meant by that.
They think ahistorically.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, they don't take into consideration things that have already happened.
Or maybe like maybe the events and like the consequences of that philosophy in the past. Like they're always just kind of thinking like in the moment like let's make everyone fucking happy, and then like they don't realize like they just killed Timmy for his liver to like split between 3 people. You know?
Yeah, that's actually one thing that sort of went through my mind when we were talking about those like in the moment decisions. It's like, I don't know, from a mathematical perspective, to maximize something, you need to know what's going to happen in the future. So like
That's very true.
making like a split-second decision or like an in-the-moment decision is not really maximizing your happiness. You're doing what's right then. So sort of maybe not ahistorically, but if you can flip that, you're not thinking in the future also.
And yeah, I mean, to add to that, your logic right there, if you take the aggregate of all the unhappiness that's the consequence of utilitarianism, who's to say that it wouldn't eventually outweigh the happiness that you generate?
Yeah.
I think it's also an issue I always think of like measuring happiness. Like we kind of gloss over it, but like there's no happiness meter, and I think it's a lot more complex than like there's just a scale of happiness. Like I think it's happiness is you know, it involves a multitude of different feelings which are probably not quantifiable. So to implement this, it just seems like you'd always run into the issue of like determining how much happiness.
Totally. Amina didn't even want to get into it. Like, I think a
Yeah,
couple people asked that question, and she like was not having it.
I mean, then again, like I wonder how many years she's been teaching this class. She gets that question.
True.
I think generally, like philosophy academics probably have heard these criticisms and they realize, like, yes, I understand, but
yes, yeah.
Right. I'm just like she's just the messenger, so.
Yeah.
To the free speech thing, though, I think what Nish was saying, the English philosopher Ray,
Dr. Ray.
Dr. Ray. Yeah. When he kind of says it's not really my place to just like come out against your philosophy, but I'm going to write my own philosophy that's going to refute it. And I think that goes along with the freedom to express yourself, no matter, like, even if you like totally disagree with his writing.
You're talking about how when he said like he was reading it and he was just thinking no. Like,
yeah, every sentence.
Every sentence was no.
Right.
I respected him though when he said that. He was like, I said no, but not in like annoyance. You know, it wasn't like he was bothered by it. He just disagreed.
I mean, that's what's great about philosophy. Like anyone can just make their own like philosophy, their own way of living. What do you think is good? What do you think is bad?
What's the one guy who started Scientology?
Oh God.
L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron.
He was just like anyone can create a religion.
Make some money.
Maybe he was a philosopher.
Yeah. That story always like gets me. It's just incredible. People believe this.
mean, it honestly shocks me that people get so manipulated into believing organized religion. For me, at least, it's like, I don't know, always leave the possibility of
Oh yeah. Yeah.
other stuff that might happen, you know, it's just,
It's like in a room of 10 like 10 different religions, 90% of them are wrong, or all of them are wrong. At least 90% are wrong.
exactly.
You know, but they all think they're right. You know?
Yeah. And here's a perfect example of one that is clearly like made up and wrong.
Yeah. But that's what's interesting about philosophy is like none of them are right or wrong. They're just opinions.
Yeah.
And I think they understand that and respect that for each other. They can argue against each other, but ultimately understand that like they're just like an opinion.
And I think it's their job to like present why they're the right and try to persuade us why.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think now that we're really at the end of the course, it's interesting to see like they're all really in dialogue with each other. Each philosopher referred to the last
Yeah.
and kind of mentioned, like Nietzsche talks about Kant and
They're
Mill
just, like,
talks about
building on
everyone else.
it.
Yeah, so it's definitely like an evolving thing, and yeah, you can't be right or wrong about it.
And I think this is like a really good example of a Mill's speech is like all these philosophies that go against each other and they're arguing against one another and we here are critiquing them and we're like which one holds up, which one, you know,
Which one's right?
which one's right.
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm always like picking pieces from.
Yeah, like, I disagree with
Yeah.
some of them, but like at the same time I agree with some of the things it says. You just kind of pick out,
Totally.
you know, put it together into your own philosophy and then.
Yeah, I mean we're really in a privileged position in that respect. Like here we are, sometimes 1,000 years after, and we can like
Yeah.
just review everything.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because we're living in a pretty free society.
California, Santa Cruz, dude.
It's hard to complain.
So any thoughts on Nietzsche's right? Nietzsche?
Yeah, what else can be said?
He talks about the two different ways of living, Apollian and Dionysian, life-denying and life-affirming. Basically just like two different ways to live. The life-denying view themselves by a determined boundary, gives rise to democracy because ruled by democracy, and then life-affirming, the hero mentality, it encourages the greatness in human spirit.
Well, what would an example of a determined boundary be?
View themselves by determined.
That be like maybe an expectation or a law of society, or is it more fundamental to like the individual?
I feel like it could be both. You know, like you don't want to set up a certain law, like you don't want to cross the line or something. I don't know. Or I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
What do you think about the noble savages?
I don't want to refresh my memory.
It was basically that his argument was like the origin of more what's good and bad, and his idea was like there's noble savages and
Herd animals?
Yeah, the herd animals and the savages were the strong and whatever they did was right because they're like I'm strong and I can do this, so whatever, I'm good, and his main idea was like that what we want to do is express our anger or express ourselves, and the savages have the chance to express themselves because they asserted dominance over everyone else, but the herd could not because they were suppressed by the savages, and so like whatever the savage did, he thought it was good, but the herb had to, I guess, reflect inner self to find good, and he couldn't release anger, so it's kind of like a buzzing to hate or like revenge, and they want, and the savages, they wanted to, 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 they wan So like basically it was just like the herd went up to the savage and said, "What you're doing is bad," and and that and the by not saying that what you did is bad, but you made a choice, and and that choice is bad, and kind of led to a which he said was like I forgot what it was like the I forgot what he called it, but it's just like it opened up like saying like you what you choose to do, you knowing what you're doing, and you choosing the bad path or like the wrong path.
Yeah.
So the path that's going against the
Yeah.
herd.
No, I mean like if because the herd wanted to be able to express themselves, right? To
Okay.
release their anger, and they couldn't because the savages were suppressing them. Or like, you know, if the savage was mad, he would just beat up on whoever he wants to beat up because he can, because he's stronger than everyone else.
Yeah.
But the herd just went up to be like, what you're doing to us is bad. Not the action, but just that you chose
Yeah.
to do this, and you don't have to be this way.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
I remember we were talking about causes of guilt. right?
Guilt. Guilt is very interesting. Which is true because like if you look at any society that's suppressed, they're gonna try to find a way to make whoever person have guilt.
Mhm.
And it's things like what you choose, you chose to be this way, and you don't have to be that way.
Mhm.
I was thinking, like, what hit this whole story he made was like he believed that like it wasn't happiness that it was like the highest good, it was the will to power, which is
Yeah.
what this whole story is about. Like, you want to express those, you want to be able to exert those impulses you have, and that's why the herd animals were so frustrated. And he was saying that like the English psychologist had it all wrong. It's not that good or happiness is the highest good, it's this. But I mean, I was just thinking like happiness is still involved in this. Like you're exerting your will provides happiness. So I didn't feel like it was that much of a retaliation against like the previous like English philosophies.
That's interesting.
Just added the new element of will to
Yeah.
power.
I think what he was saying, I think his point was just trying to find out like how did this idea of good and bad start, and how, and what started like everything, you know.
The root of good and evil.
Yeah, the root of good and evil.
I really appreciated, well, all of the other philosophers sort of took God for granted, and I did appreciate the difference of opinion here, where Nietzsche kind of doesn't really beat around the bush. He says God is dead. Like, all your ideas about good and bad come from a transcendental source, and God is that source, and I don't believe in him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Straight denials.
yeah.
I like that.
What do you guys feel, or how do you feel rather, about nihilism?
I was going to ask about that. The quote, it seems like it sort of gets a bad rap in popular culture. Like, it's sort of immediately held below, like, other belief systems.
Yeah, you know, like, I almost feel like it's because people don't like the idea that, you know, they amount to nothing.
I
Yeah.
feel like it's misinterpreted. Like, I think what part of the negative public perception is that people perceive it like that, like, I am nothing. Like, and I remember, you know, finally, like, reading, like, the Wikipedia entry for nihilism, and once you read it, you're like, yeah, like, it sounds really dark, but it's basically, I think, generally just saying that the idea of meaning is, there is no, like, actual meaning. That is something that humans just apply to things, but they themselves do not really have that. It's just an illusion, and therefore nothing has meaning technically. But like, it makes it sound like a dark and edgy philosophy, but I feel like it's.
I mean, I think in a way it kind of sums up exactly what philosophy is, where we're investing value into particular, you know, tenets and beliefs, and you know, that's really what philosophy is at the end of the day. It's nihilistic.
Yeah, I feel like he's almost one of the first ones to kind of turn the camera lens around and figure, like, okay, we've been studying good and bad for about a millennia, but Why? What is that about?
Yeah, that was like one thing I liked about him was like you said, he went to the underneath all of this dialogue that's been happening, and he was like, wait a minute, why are we even bothering to do this? Like, what's the impulse
Yeah.
leading us, and how many assumptions are we making that the foundation of this that we haven't even called into question?
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
We did that as an engineering exercise one time. Like someone kind of just threw out this wacky idea, and the engineers just kind of ran wild for about 45 minutes until someone like stopped and said, like, hey, this is sort of a dumb idea.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah, like why are we doing this? And it turned out, yeah, there wasn't a good reason why we were doing it.
You get like tunnel vision at some point.
Exactly. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get to Camus because he's got a nice retort to that. It's like if your life doesn't mean anything, then why don't you just kill yourself? Essentially, I mean the gist of it. Although I don't disagree. Go ahead. What do you think?
Oh, no. You don't disagree with what? With
I don't. I mean, although it gets a bad rap,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree with what Nietzsche has to say.
It sounds like kind of like salty religious people, like, oh, if you don't believe in God, well, just kill yourself. You know, like you take away what someone holds dear, and they can't envision that a person can even live life without believing the thing that they believe, right? You know, like as if you don't believe in meaning, like you're just so depressed all the day.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, who was it? It was like one of the first days of class, and the professor was talking about the one dude who lives in a tunnel or something, and like he can't do anything. Like it was a model for someone that could never really achieve happiness.
Oh yeah.
But in a way, it's just like, damn it, that train just fucking left. All right, I have no clue where I was going with that, but I had some point to make.
Just how that kid, he can't achieve happiness just by being happy.
Yeah, or like people.
Wasn't the one moral exercise was like this guy has no passion and no interest in anything.
That was absolutely.
And can he truly be happy if he
Yeah.
has?
I think so. Yeah.
If nothing makes him happy, like he doesn't want anything.
So all right, I know where I was going with this. So like, if you are of a nihilist philosophy, can you ever be happy if you don't have any values?
I think human neurology provides plenty of sources of pleasure. Like even if, no matter what you believe, I think we take so much credit for like your beliefs influence your happiness so much, but I really don't. I think it's more so we pretend like, oh, the things I believe are the reason I am.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's just you're not responsible.
I can eat food and like.
I agree with that. I think there's a good amount of happiness to be derived even if you don't believe in anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just feel happy just from being alive, and so it's just like just
Right.
kind of not thinking like if there's not an afterlife, then enjoy this life and just being happy just because I'm alive.
And when you do things that give you pleasure, are you really thinking about the meaning of them in any way, or are you just doing them?
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes thinking too much about existence will like take away that happiness because it's
so true.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
it's just all about doing what makes you happy and not thinking too much about it.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's the conclusion of the class right there.
Yeah. It's almost like trying to impose like a meaning or a value on life in a way it kind of detracts from the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because instead of just like experiencing, you're like taking yourself out of that experience and like, I don't know, just like spending too much time like analyzing.
Absolutely.
Totally unrelated, but whenever I hear like the word nihilism or nihilist, I always think of the Big Lebowski.
I was about to say that.
That's so true.
Say what you will about the tenets of National Socialism, at least it's an ethos.
True. 30 more seconds.
We're probably good.
Yeah.
Alright.
Goodbye. Keith Virtue signing off for the lesson.
Signing off.